Hello, hello, and welcome to the Color Whisperer Show, where we talk about all things home and healing. And we have a special guest today, Shane Thompson, and he's going to talk to us about a very key part of being healthy. That's our body. Our body is our home, and we only get one. So how we treat it is really important because it's all we got, you know? So, Shane, welcome. Come join us. Hello, how are you
Hi,
today?
Jeanette. I'm fine. How are you doing?
Great. It's so nice to have you here.
Thank you.
So let's start. I know this is a huge passion for you. So let's start with the passion of it and what got you into it and what drives you.
Wow, really good question. I come from a family that had no serious health concerns, no cancer or heart issues. And my dad had retired and suddenly he had felt ill. There was a lot of flu going around at the time. And the flu so-called symptoms never subsided. So he went to go see a doctor and he got the news that he had stomach cancer. So this sent quite a shock through the family, not having any record of cancer prior. And he went in to get surgery and the surgeons opened him up and they said, sorry, it's spread, closed him back up, gave us the bill, and then sent him home to get his affairs in order. So it was a big wake-up call. I spent every waking moment researching cancer cures. And the more I researched, the more I found how it is tied to lifestyle.
Yeah.
And if we had to give a percentage split of what the biggest contributing factors are, it's diet. So unfortunately, I was in a learning mode, and I wish I knew now, or knew then what I know now. I'm sure I could have helped him. So that was the starting pistol. And I had, for many years post his passing away, kept up to date with trends on cancer cures, and there are hundreds of them.
Oh, yeah.
And none of them are guaranteed. You know, it's a very difficult position for people to be in. You know, everybody wants to help, and the person that is sitting with the diagnosis is very overwhelmed. You know, and if people mean well, you know, well, I know this person, or my auntie's cousin, uncle, second removed from my brother, had this cure, he just ate pineapple, isn't helpful for people in that situation. And so that went on probably about 8 years. Then my mom came to live with me here in Canada, and she was diagnosed with breast cancer, a 10-centimeter tumor. So, of course, you know, this, I don't want to use the word trauma, but this whole thing was kind of had a reset button. And with a lot of prayer, and we also used herbs. A local lady here, very much in touch with similar background, gave us a list of get this and then apply it. And then I put my mom on the keto diet, because most tumors are very hungry for glucose being its primary food source. Now, again, I'm not saying all cancers, but most solid tumors would be hungry for the glucose as a form of energy. So my mom ended up getting surgery, losing her left breast, but in the post-surgical follow-up, even when the doctor had said, the surgeon had said, wow, you know, with that size tumor, we had expected it to have spread. We only removed one layer of lymph nodes. So, you know, given what they had to do, it was far less invasive than they planned. We then had, because my mom would consult with me saying, what should I do? And, you know, I said, Mom, it's not my body, it's yours. But the oncologists and the radiologists would be calling saying, hey, you need to start chemotherapy. You need to start radiation therapy. And they were kind enough to give my mom a booklet. But then when you read the side effects,
It's nuts. It's nuts. And it's worse, actually. Well,
yeah,
it's worse than what it is. And they don't really actually have, there's no guarantee that's going to fix it. It destroys your good cells as much as it destroys the bad cells. And yeah, there's still no guarantee it's going to fix it.
no, actually, when you read statistics from the Cancer Society, depending on the stage you're in the latter stages, 3 or 4, there's a 3% success rate.
Yeah.
So if you catch it early, chemotherapy can help, and I use the word help loosely, but the further advanced you are, you're desperate, and it's difficult to understand what that person's going through when they're in that situation. But it was the fact that they couldn't find any other trace of it having spread,
right,
that they hounded my mother several times a week saying, no, you must go, you must go.
They wanted to treat her as a guinea pig. They wanted to see what was going on.
You know what their reasoning was?
What?
Just in case.
Oh my God.
So, I said, I'm going to go with you to the hospital.
Yeah.
And the oncologist means well. He's trained in a certain way, and to him, that's the only way that works.
Right.
And I'll give him that. And he sat there, and my mom was 72 at the time. Her hair is still blonde. She's approaching 80. It's long, almost waist length. And he said to her, I've run the tests, the post-surgery tests twice. And I've done that because I couldn't find any evidence of any cancer spreading. And I'm surprised. But just in case, we need to put you on chemo. So I said to him, why? Why don't you put your family and why don't you go on it with my mom, just in case? If that's the medical reasoning, you have to apply chemo. So again, he was well-meaning, and he said to her, I try and quote,
they're not well-meaning. I mean, it's just not. They've been given this. We have to do this, and it makes them money. Let's face it, it makes them money.
It's not free. No.
And my dad was dying. Any idiot could see this man had days left. Okay. And the doctor's sitting there saying, well, his white blood cells done. We want to do a bone marrow check. And I'm like, and what would you do then? Oh, we'll put him on chemo. I'll say, the man's not going to survive your bone marrow check, let alone chemo. If he made it that far, one shot of chemo is going to kill him. He was 80 odd years old, and they're treating him like a pincushion. I'm like, and they kept telling me he's going to get better. And I'm like, I've got eyes. What the hell? Now, somebody who wasn't willing to let them go and who wanted to believe the doctor, they would have done all that. But I'm like, dude, he wouldn't even eat his favorite black jelly beans. I'm like, the man is dead. It's just a matter of time. But the doctors, they keep, oh, well, we can still get a little bit more. No, that's wrong. Sorry, I get a little passionate about this.
I feel the same way you do. And the good news is that cancer doesn't have to be a death sentence, right? And there's no need to fear it, because it is really just a symptom which is showing that something is out of whack in the medical terms. I'm not a doctor, but sometimes it might manifest in different ways with different people. Heart attack, cholesterol. There's a whole host of things. Whatever your body's weakest link is, that's where it'll come forth as let's call it a symptom. And cancer is just a genetic mutation that's gone wrong, because your cells replicate and is a rebirth of your cells.
Yes.
I mean, your brain and your bones and that are not the same within a 9-month period.
No.
Right? Our blood replenishes every 42 days. So if you have poor nutrition, that copy that you're making is getting weaker and weaker and weaker. So without good nutrition, and in a world where we are having so much access to super ultra processed foods that, and it's cheap, it's very readily available, it's no wonder that we're sitting in a society that's so sick.
There's so many chemicals in our food. I want to backtrack just for a minute because you're talking about breast cancer. So I'm also do energy healing. I've worked on several people with cancer, and diet is a huge part. And then there's also emotions attached to the different organs. So when you can get to the bottom of that in conjunction with the diet, it's easy. But the person who started teaching me this, they owned a bra store and they got a lot of mastectomies. So
Mhm.
breast cancer, I want to put out a few things that are so simple. And the breast cancer people will never tell you this because guess what? They're free. So they're not going to tell you this. But one of the big things you can do, stop wearing underwire bras. Because what happens, where does the breast cancer hit? It's right here at the top of the wire. I can't even get it so you can see me. There we go. It's right here at the top of the wire. What's there? That's your lymph node. That's where it gets stuck. So if you've got a wire sticking in there, the lymph aren't able to do what they're supposed to do. And that's where it gets stuck in the breast. So that's a really key thing. Now they're starting to do more bras that are nice and even pretty that don't have the underwire, and they still have lots of support. I'm not small, and I haven't worn an underwire since I was 30. I'm 54. Everything's fine. But I'm like, I think I'm technically a double D. So if you think you're too big, you're not too big. Okay. The underwire is really key in getting rid of that so that your lymph node can do it. Lymph massage, really important. Keep those lymph nodes moving, keeping the fluid moving. That's going to help so many things. Your health, that's a whole immune thing that helps your entire body be healthier. The other thing, it's illegal in this country, and that's breast massage. So breast massage, it's a muscle and there's fluid that gets stuck in there too. So if you know, most people know how to do a self breast exam as you go around. If you feel the little nodules, people forget, well, oh, I got these little nodules or these little hard spots. Just massage them away. And that's all they need. They just need a little bit of attention. The emotions, it's the liver and the stomach. And those are two places that people have a lot of anxiety. The liver's stress, it's distress, it's anger, it's tension. So as women, we're nurturers. And what do? We hold things to our breast. This is right. And we hold things in because we're not allowed to, you know. So if you can massage that anxiety out, then it's going to help keep you healthier. So those are just some real simple tips to keep the breast cancer away. And you have to do the diet. I'm not negating that at all, but these are some other layers that you can add on there.
Exactly. In the lymph system, consider it like the sewage system of your body. The problem with the lymph system is it doesn't have its own muscles to move the fluid out. So it traps all of the bad stuff. But exercise, the muscles of your body squeezing against the lymph system moves that fluid. But one of the best ways to keep the lymph moving is getting a rebounder. It's a mini trampoline. And you fighting gravity, so to speak, is one of the most effective ways to keep that lymph moving, if there is an alternative you're looking for that. Yeah.
Yeah. It really makes a big difference. And it's not just breast health, it's health in general. So
Absolutely.
10 minutes on a rebounder is saving a lot of things, not just your breast health, it's your health in general. So, and I've seen when I do energy healing and I'm working on somebody who's got cancer, it looks like tar in their body. It's just like this black tar. And this, and working on it, my goal is to make it dissipate and go away. So I'm working on cleaning it from an energetic level because there is an emotional component there as well. I did have a client who called me and there was so much tar and she just, I didn't know how to help her because she was like, well, I can't spend any money. And I'm like, this was not a one and done thing. This would have been, weeks of every day, and I'm generous, but there's a limit to how what I can do there. And I felt really bad for her because she was so close, but she was still even like, I know I could have helped. Would I have saved her? I don't know, but I could have helped. But she had her heart set on this other guy, and she gave him all of her money, and then she was dead in a couple of weeks. Now, I don't know what happened there, but you've got to do the diet. You've got to do the mental. It's physical, it's mental, it's emotional. You've got to address all of them. So tell me how you deal with the diet, because that's a big part of what you do. And part of your message too is it's not just getting healthy for you, but it's getting healthy for your kids, which I love, because people always say, oh, I'd do anything for my kids. I'd die for my kids. Yeah, but will you give up the Twinkie? The answer is no. A lot of times the answer is no.
People typically wait. We are, as a race, we tend to play the odds and gamble. And one of the biggest dangers is when we eat a Twinkie, it's not like having a cup of arsenic. The feedback isn't immediate. So you think, I've got a free pass. You draw on a cigarette and you don't get lung cancer. And you think, oh, it's not immediate. I get a free pass. Until your body, under certain circumstances where all of the genetic problems align, bang, you get some kind of thing that happens to you. And sometimes it might be past the point of no return, in spite of everything you're doing. There is no guarantee. But if you want to reduce your risk of living in poor health, because I love the stats. They go, the average age in the US now is 88, for women and 85 for men. Yeah, but the quality of your life from 70 onwards, where you're taking a handful of pills, most of your retirement money is going to the medical and to doctors. And
most of your time.
Yeah, and they're prodding you, they're bleeding you dry, literally, financially and literally. You've got no freedom. You cannot travel because you've got to stay near medical centers. You've got to have your medicine close at hand. What kind of life is that? Save your money, because they tell you, it's expensive to eat healthy. Compared to what is my question? To the medicines. Just diabetes.
Doctor's appointments. How many?
Diabetes alone can chase you over $6,000 a year. But diabetes never operates by itself. It's always, diseases don't exist in isolation. They always have a few partners. If you find somebody that's a diabetic, they will be on cholesterol meds, they'll be on blood thinners, and there's normally 4 or 5 partners that they put with us, because diabetes is central to a host of other issues. Having diabetes, for example, increases your cardiovascular health in terms of heart attacks by 2 to 4 times, just having diabetes. If you have diabetes, your risk of getting cancer is 32% in men and 64% in women. That's your increased risk from having one issue.
Yeah.
So you look at the top 10 list of deaths in the US in 2020, diabetes was number 8 on the list. But was it truly representative of it being diabetes only when it contributes to those issues above? Now, except for suicide, it's, in the top 3 or 4. But, heart problems, metabolic health, you name it, they're all related. So if you fix one, you take care of all of them.
That was one of the things that really bugged me during COVID. There was a lot of people screaming, you have to wear a mask. You have to go get the shot. Just do it. Just do it. Just do it. Meanwhile, these were all people who had diabetes, heart pills. They're 200 pounds overweight, and they're honest. Well, I've got diabetes. My immune system's compromised. Okay. You spent the last 50 years not giving a shit about your health. And now you're telling me what I'm supposed to do because you didn't take care of your health. And now you're scared of dying. But they should have been scared of dying for 50 years when they were putting crap in their bodies and like they're worried about a bug. And I'm like, this bug is not the thing that's going to kill you. It's what you've been doing for the last 50 years that's going to kill you. Maybe the bug is the last straw, but that's not what's killing them. You know?
That's exactly the case. They don't, diabetes contributes to them being very fragile, and it's just one step away from death.
Yes.
And it's an important thing you raise. It comes back to the fact that because the feedback's not immediate, and they can just take a shot of insulin or what have you, and then I can plan to have my can of Coca-Cola or my Oreo cookie because I just adjust my pump, and it'll take care of everything, right? Now, those are the same people that will be crying the blues when the doctor says you've got 6 months to live. Exactly. Now they want miracles.
Right.
And, more often than not, you can reverse type 2 diabetes. Fact. It's a lifestyle issue, not type 1, because that's immune related. But type 2 is what we do each and every day. And I always tell my clients that if you have you have the formula for success. If you consistently do the wrong things that make you ill, all you need to do is consistently do the right things that will make you better. It's that easy. Now, you can compress that time. If you've invested 6, 7, 8, 10, 15 years in becoming sicker, now they expect it to be reversed in 2 weeks. Well, that's just not reality. But some people have managed to reverse diabetes within 30 days. Meaning they are off insulin.
30? Is that what you said?
30 days.
That's awesome.
But the reality is plan for up to 6, 7, 8 months.
Yeah.
And part of that comes
overnight. It's like, wait, you didn't gain 50 pounds overnight.
No.
So it's the same thing. You're not going to lose it overnight. The body takes time to heal. It has a great power to heal, an incredible power to heal.
If given the resources. Yes. And now, there's another part of health, and that's the mental side. Because if you look at the success rate of diets, I'm going to make a statement here. All diets work. You will lose weight. But when they stop working is because your mindset hasn't changed and adapted to change your lifestyle to continue down that road. So you default back to how you were and what got you sick, fat, and nearly dead in the first place.
It's true. And
unless you address the mental side of your weight loss journey, which is why I always say I'm in the health and weight loss, nothing will change. It's a short-term gain. You've got a deadline in your mind, and your mind says, oh, I've just got to stick this out for 3 months. And then I can take a break and go back to my old ways. And then 9 months later, 12 months later, they blame the diet. One of the best things is, and I'm going to use keto because it's what I'm most comfortable with. Keto doesn't work because when I stopped using it, I started to get fat again. And I'm thinking, so showering doesn't work because when you stop showering, you get dirty again. When you stop brushing your teeth, because that doesn't work, you get tooth decay, right? It's that pattern and that story we tell ourselves that needs to change.
Well, and I know in food, because I'm an emotional eater, I'll admit it. But the hard thing was, like, if you're an alcoholic or a smoker, you can cut that directly. But if you've got an issue with food addiction, you still have to eat. It's like, it's finding the right things to eat. And I've had times when it's just like, things are blowing up around me and it's just like, I don't care. I'm grabbing the ice cream. Like, I need to feel that need to feel good is stronger than anything else. And, for that moment, okay, I need ice cream. I can feel okay eating ice cream. And then, and the next day it's like, oh my God, did I really do that? I mean, I didn't eat like the whole thing or anything, but, it's like, oh, I just defeated myself in the whole diet thing. But that's, so how do you deal with that? Because it is hard because you still have to eat, and then there's so many chemicals in our food. It's crazy. But
there's 2 ways.
Yes.
There's 2 ways. Firstly, you've got to understand what your triggers are.
Right.
Because, again, if I hear the words you're using, you were justifying now why you do it. But we've got to unpack that a little more and say, well, what's the trigger for you to say, I'm overwhelmed, therefore I deserve the right to reward myself or soothe my nerves with X? Remove the trigger and remove everything that follows.
There you go.
So how do you do this? Well, you start, anybody, the first thing I look at when I have a client or onboard a client is, you're going to fall off the wagon. It's not if, it's when. Expect that. But let's plan for that. What are the circumstances that would trigger you to go off plan? I never use the word cheat, because you're not cheating. If you have an extramarital affair, that's cheating on your husband, right? Not following the plan isn't cheating. So what's going to cause you to fall off plan? And you plan ahead. And then you say, how do I choose, or what do I plan to do to not go back to my old habits? And even if you fall off the wagon, here's the second principle. Focus on progress, not perfection. Another set of words you used is, the next day I feel so bad. Why? You're not going to undo 30 days of eating right most of the time with 1 day of overeating. If you had 1,000 to 1,500 more calories than you should have, let's say you had that bowl of ice cream, you're only going to put on about 0.2 pounds of fat. Fact. Although the scale says, oh, I've gained a pound, most of that's water because of the word carbohydrate. When you have carbs, there's water attached to it 3 to 4 times. So 1 gram of carbs is going to add 4 grams of water. Your scale is going to go, wow, I'm undoing everything I've made so far in terms of progress. It's not true. You will lose that water within a day very easily. So this is where it comes to the mindset. What are you using to justify going off plan? Plan ahead for it, and then have a plan in place so that when you have that trigger, you go, I'm taking in the fork of the road. You've always got a choice, right? And you're fighting, and how do you overcome? Is by changing your excuses. This is now where the why is not enough. It's what's the why behind the why. For example, you've mentioned, oh, I want to live, I don't want to die. No. Use the word because. I want to live because, or I don't want to die because. That's the why behind the why. For example, I want to walk my daughter down the aisle at her wedding. That's the real reason, not because you don't want to die. It's because you want to walk your daughter down the aisle. So that's another reason why you can have more will, and willpower is a short-term thing as well, by the way. You shouldn't rely on that. But if you've got a strong why behind the why, you'll be less inclined to go off plan. So if I said to you, listen, if you have 1 more bite of ice cream, you're going to die. I can tell you now, you won't have another bite of ice cream. Right? You've got a strong reason.
Hey, Shane, I was listening to y'all while I was also having my meeting and everything, so I was catching some of it. And 2 things crossed my mind as you were talking that were interesting conversation I have, but I'd love to hear your thoughts about it, which is that a lot of times folks are guilty, and I know that I've talked on this show before with Jeanette of eating way too much fast food because of my busy lifestyle, and I know that I am guilty of that. So is it all right for me to go and get my taco or my fried chicken on occasion and all
Yes.
along those lines? And because I think that sometimes we have that guilt trip mindset and everything where we are concerned that we are eating bad foods when we know that they are not good for us and all along those lines. And the other thing that I was in a clubhouse room, ironically, and the young lady had some very interesting points. She was from Peru, and she talked about how she didn't really like, and I know y'all talking about diet, but she didn't really like gyms because of, as she put it, they're smelling. That's very true, but she's like natural exercise. So she would get up in the early morning because she's in California herself now, originally from Peru, but I think she lives in Los Angeles. So she would get up to do her exercise, and a lot of it involved climbing steps for cardiovascular and things of that nature. But she tried to get it done before the crazy heat started happening. So she might get up and do it like before 7 or 8 so that she wasn't dealing with that oppressive heat that I know y'all are having and we're having as well. But I just wanted your thoughts about people structuring their exercise and their diet around the time and whether it is all right to occasionally eat things that other folks and yourself might consider bad?
So it depends on what you consider bad, because at the end of the day, it's okay to have these so-called bad foods, because what counts is what you do most often. So if you use the 80-20 rule, now depending on your health conditions, you might need to be eating good 90% of the time or 95% of the time. The other 5% have that taco. And if you're going to have the taco, perhaps tweak your choice of what you take off the menu. Don't have fries, rather order 2 chicken nuggets or 2 bags of chicken nuggets and eat that, or chicken wings, than eat the fries. So you can tweak what you eat off the menu and give yourself a break every 2 weeks, because that's another problem why people fall off diets. It's too restrictive. Now, restrictive it means different things to different people, because again, that mindset thing is FOMO, fear of missing out. What am I giving up? This isn't right. It's not fair. And we play that victim recording. This isn't fair. Look at Joe Blow is eating ice cream and he's thin and he doesn't have diabetes, until next week he drops dead of a heart attack. And everybody's surprised, right? So that's the first thing I would say is, don't beat yourself up about it. Plan it every 2 weeks. Plan to have a so-called off-plan meal. You can also make better choices. Try and have more protein and less of the breads and the potato, the fries, or have half of the fries.
Yeah, that makes sense. The other thing I mentioned, the time element, both with her exercise, but the other thing that I see people doing, even in diet, and I know I'm guilty of it as well, is that hunger hits us at different times. And sometimes it's not always on the time that it should be in terms of our wellness, because I'd be lying if I told you that I didn't call DoorDash and some of the other places. Jeanette knows this because we've been on phone calls when I have done it, and some off hours and all along those lines. So it might be like 10 or 11 o'clock, which I think is 7 y'all's time, but it's definitely an off hour. And I know that people oftentimes are doing impulse buying, even with their food and everything. So how can we resist that impulse buying? Because sometimes you're like, well, I haven't had dinner and it's 10 o'clock. I need dinner. But it's 10 o'clock. So you go ahead and you order it because it's a impulse buy and in that kind of space.
Well, before I get to that, one question on the exercise you had. Mm-hmm. If you just went for a stroll, just 10 minutes after each meal,
right,
that is enough to bring your insulin levels down by 12% or more.
Oh, wow.
Which means it'll control your hunger. That's all you need to do. I always talk about the minimum dose of exercise needed. And you don't do exercise for weight loss. You do exercise for health. Why? It sounds like it's semantics. It is and it isn't. When you do weight or exercise for weight loss, you're going to this is what's going to go through your mind as a string of thoughts. Well, I planned for 40 minutes, but I got up late this morning. I've only got 20 minutes. If I cannot get 40 minutes, I'm not even going to go in for 20 minutes. So therefore, I'm just going to blow the whole thing. So that's one thought pattern. The other one is, if you do it for health, not for weight loss, you will help that side too. If I can even just do 20 minutes, it's going to help my blood pressure. It's going to help my longevity. You know that walking has been associated with 3 to 4 more years of added life. Mm-hmm. Just walking. Wow. So if you focus mentally on what you're getting out of it from a health respect for your exercise, you'll be more likely to do it in spite of it not being perfect. Yep. So walking after a meal, and I'm not saying power walk, just do 10, 15 minutes stroll. That alone is going to add up to 2,000 steps a day. Just that. And you enjoy, you stop and smell the roses.
Oh yeah, you definitely have to do that. Enjoying nature. I'm gonna bounce off again, like I said, and I've been listening to some degree and enjoying the conversation. I was gonna tease Jeanette really quickly. One of my interviews that I had was with somebody in the wellness space and the crystal space, and we actually were talking online. I think it was the last interview that I did with this particular guest, and they actually, as you see the trees in the background, we're talking about how one of the things that they did for their wellness was hug a tree. And it sounds like it's crazy and everything, but they actually felt that the energy that they got from hugging that tree was very beneficial. So I don't know if Shane has observed that as well, but some people be like, why am I going to hug a tree? It's not a cat or a dog, but they felt like they got some very positive energy from the tree and all along along those lines. So I felt that was a great conversation with the young lady. And I think she might have been West Coast as well. I think her name was Elaine or something along those lines. But it was definitely a fun conversation that she was saying that, yeah, sometimes you just need to get that energy from the tree because they have feelings as well. And some people may call that woo kind of thoughts, but I don't necessarily believe that. So I think it is very something people may want to consider.
It's a living thing.
And walk barefoot on the grass, called earthing, right? That alone, I mean, you know, we're so busy with distractions like social media. No wonder our health is affected. And again, just a short walk after your meals, walk barefoot if it's in your own backyard, just stand there, breathe. You know, it's going to do so much more for you than you're beating yourself up over having a bowl of ice cream every 2 weeks or that chicken taco.
Hey, you know, I hear you. Like I said, I'm going to bounce off. But Shane, if it's hot as all get out, because it's hot as all get out here today, can I just walk around my house instead of walking outside because it was hot? Yes. I might just need to walk around the house.
Yes, and if you've got stairs, listen to your favorite podcast and go for a walk and just break the normal routine in your head. That taking a break from life is probably one of the biggest aspects you can make in terms of improving your health. Remember, weight gain is just a symptom of poor health. Focus your exercise from a health perspective. You'll be more consistently exercising. Focus exercising because you want to lose weight. Your brain will trick you into not doing it because you're missing out on all these things that you never bothered you before. But now, because you cannot have it, it becomes that forbidden fruit issue, right?
Yeah, no doubt. But like I said, I'm going to bounce off. I'm going to leave you with the lovely Jeanette and all of that space. Shane, it's been a pleasure meeting you. Jeanette keeps bringing us amazing guests, and you are another amazing guest as well. So looking forward to continuing here the conversation. And at the end, you'll hear a commercial featuring a person that is in that food lane about health food and all in that space. But y'all still got about another 20 minutes of conversation. But Shane, it was a pleasure meeting you. And like I said, hope to meet you in person at some point as well.
Likewise, Mark.
So one of the things that I struggle with personally is like, what do I eat? I mean, there's so many things out there. And here's the thing, like every time you turn around on the news, they're like, oh, well, coffee is good for you and coffee beats cancer and then coffee causes cancer. And like, it seems like they're just spinning you around. And then there's stuff in our food, like we can't pronounce it and it's bad for us. And even though it's FDA approved, it's really not good for us. It's making us sick. So I know I've had times when I'm just like, well, you know, then I hear, well, you know, there's fluoride in the water and there's so much in this. And like, you know, even if you buy organic, well, there's a farm up the way that's not organic. And you just kind of like, you listen to all these things and you're just like, I'm screwed no matter what I do. So what do I do? So how do you deal with it? Every day? It seems like there's a new, don't do this because, try this vitamin, try that vitamin. And like, there's just all these trends when it comes to, you know, where the disease is coming from, what triggers. Now, I know I have a deeper level of what causes cancer. So I'm not, you know, like I know better, but you know, the average person is like, there's so many of these messages coming to us. So what do you do when your clients say, hey, what do I eat? Like what's not going to, you know, yes, stay away from processed foods, but they hide stuff, you know, and I know America particularly is worse at this than other countries. I don't know about South Africa, but, you know, so how do you advise your clients?
Well, first of all, it's a two-part response. Firstly, you know, with all of this confusing back and forth from experts, you know, you couldn't get a group of doctors into an office and then agree on anything. So don't count on that. Just because they have a doctor label, first of all, your doctor studies medicine, not nutrition. Right. So you shouldn't be going to your doctor for nutritional advice.
They don't know. They're not even taught nutrition.
Exactly.
They're not even taught nutrition.
So you know what? You know, they're not the bad guy here. We don't take care of our own health, and then we expect them to go and give us a pill. Health is our responsibility. But to respond to your first part of your question, is when you have a perfection mindset, that's the trap you're going to fall into. Today, Coke Zero has aspartame and it's bad, and tomorrow it's not bad. It's about perspective and simplicity. Having a Coke Zero isn't going to kill you. Let's talk about perspective. There's been talk about the World Health Organization saying aspartame causes cancer, but then when you read the study a little further, it says it is possibly a carcinogen. When you look at what's grouped under that group 2B, because they group it based on toxic levels, aloe vera, cell phones, and all that thing is under the same group as a possible carcinogen as aspartame. So there's the one thing going, but in the animal studies, even they couldn't find anything conclusive. But then when you go and you say, okay, what's the dose response for it to make me sick? Here is the facts. First of all, when aspartame breaks down, it breaks down into aspartic acid. One single egg has 30 times more aspartic acid than a can of Coke Zero. Aspartic acid is an amino acid. Secondly, as it breaks down further in your stomach, it breaks into methanol. Now, methanol is a solvent, but the issue is that you look at the dose required for methanol to cause cancer or make you sick. You need to drink 22,000 cans of Coke a day. So when you look at the dose response, when they say, X causes cancer, you don't know that it's impossible for the dosages they give this little mouse where they inject it for you as a human being to even get close to that. Never mind in a lifetime on a daily basis. So one of the things you always need to look at is when there's news of doom and gloom, and some study has come out illustrating the possibility of X, what is the dose response? How much of X do you need to have in order to be at a higher risk of Y?
Yeah, and I think we need to do more research on these studies, because it's so easy to say, well, the doctor said study, or the expert said. They get in with the line, but who paid for the study? What does the study involve? Is it replicable? A study doesn't mean anything, honestly. My ex used to do polls, and they had to be really careful how they worded things, because you can, numbers don't lie, but you can make the numbers lie based on the question that you ask. How many people have died after drinking a can of Coke? Well, it's probably very small. But how many people have died as a result of heavy doses of caffeine over a lifetime? Well, they can't measure that. And people don't even want to say, that's what did it. They don't want to admit that, So you got to be careful. Like, who paid for the study? Is that influencing? Because they can gear the information to benefit the person who paid it. And you got to look at what exactly are the factors involved.
And if you don't have the time or the inclination to learn how to read one of these studies, here's my second response to your question. Stick to whole foods most of the time. So if it comes out of the ground directly from field to plate, great. Eat your veggies. Now the question is, well, which is better, organic or non-organic? If you wash most of your vegetables, those pesticides will come out. No problem. However, there's one thing we don't know, and as a cautionary word from me, and I'm not a food scientist, is GMO.
Yeah.
When you go and take the genetic cells from an Arctic fish and inject it into a tomato because you don't want the tomato to be killed off due to frost, to make it more frost resistant. You know what? Just like cigarettes took 50 years for us to wake up and go, here's proof it's bad. Who knows what GMO is going to do to us?
Right.
So I don't trust GMO products. I would say and again, this is just me speaking, organic, non-organic, if it's a choice between having French crisps or chocolate versus non-organic vegetables, have non-organic vegetables. What you need to focus on is try and eat whole foods, meaning it's not processed. So if it comes in a box or a bag, for the most part, limit those and increase what would come from the farm. That is as simple as I would say to keep it.
Shane, sorry to bother you again, but I had a quick question based on what you were just talking about, because oftentimes I hear friends that are wanting to eat the healthy diet, but they are concerned about the finances of the healthy diet. I've told Jeanette that I get the produce box, which is naturally grown farm products, whether it's strawberries or corn or onions or whatever, but it's not a cheap monthly package. That's why sometimes I'll do the skip routine, because you can skip the weeks that you don't have the money or whatever. And there is a whole joke about Whole Foods, because their joke here, at least here in the Southeast, is whole paychecks. And I'm sure that other people have heard that joke as well. So what do you say to the folks that are concerned about the expenses of having a natural diet and everything?
Well, I would ask them this. When you're sick and eat medication, how do you suddenly find the money for that? It's an excuse.
Right.
If it's not a priority, you will make the excuses not to. If your health is a priority and you're getting nutrition, you won't be as hungry and overeat. You won't eat the wrong things. It doesn't matter if they're cheap. And if you employ something like strategy like intermittent fasting, which in itself one doesn't do for weight loss, but for health, because of all the benefits of autophagy, stem cell growth, resting your colon so that it can make those repairs, because most sicknesses, the estimate is around 70% of doctors' visits are related to the digestive tract in one form or another. You know, there's so many strategies you can employ without using that excuse about cost. Again, if it's not a priority, fine. But
Starbucks isn't cheap, and I bet you to find room for their Starbucks.
That's my point. So they just, again, it's that mindset part that says, FOMO, I don't want to miss out. Hey, I'm not that sick. I've got the odd ache or pain. You know, the doctor's blood work says I'm great. I don't need to worry about it, but I'll worry about it when I need to.
Right.
While they're sitting smoking a cigarette or having a bender at a bar with friends. Those people that say they cannot afford it, in my opinion, 9 times out of 10, they can.
Right.
They just don't choose to prioritize in the right fashion because they don't want to change.
No, definitely agree with you on that. Glad that you enjoyed my smiling face popping internet, but I'm going to pop off again, and y'all still got 10 more minutes of conversation, but always glad hearing both of y'all. But as y'all were going and talking, I was going like, wait a minute, that's what my friends are always complaining about. I've got to ask Shane about this and everything. He'll have an answer. So I'm sure that my friends will be going back and watching on LinkedIn and our other platforms and going like, yep, he's right.
Shane, why don't you spend a few minutes telling us about how you work? Tell us a little bit about your business and how we can work with you.
So right now, I'm busy setting up the back end, website-wise, etc. But I am pretty active on social media, on Instagram, the Keto Way 50 Plus. I put out daily videos, about a minute or so less than a minute, just sound bites to keep you on track, both physically and mentally. And I'm on TikTok as well. But Instagram, you know, and if you want to get hold of me, just DM me there. We can definitely talk. I offer a 90-day program, and it's 90 days because it's enough time to change the habits you need to change in order to sustain that forward momentum.
Because it's not just for 90 days you're going to lose weight. It is a lifestyle change.
Exactly. And we have to appreciate
you really feel better when you're on Whole Foods, because I know I've made that change most of the time. I'm not perfect by any means, but when you're eating stuff that is healthy, you feel better, and then you don't even want that other stuff.
Exactly. You know, when you eat healthy, it's kind of an elimination diet because you cut out the processed stuff. I mean, think about ultra processed. They've stripped the nutrients. But then they add sugar to make it taste nice. I mean, it's literally taking cardboard or paper and putting a coat of sugar on it, right? It has no nutritional value. If you focused on nutrition, things that had your vitamins and minerals, etc., you find your energy levels will go up, your hunger will come down, your body will have the raw materials to heal itself. But again, you need to spend enough time in the right environment to make sure you're on the right track to maintain that change.
Indeed, indeed. So again, I interrupted you. Tell me a little bit more about your 90-day program and what that looks like.
So in the first week, I give a meal plan for the first 2 to 3 weeks. And it is really just to frame the kinds of foods one should eat to improve your health. And there's this conundrum out there that to lose weight, do we get healthy to lose weight, or do we lose weight to get healthy? Now, there is no wrong or right. My approach is we get healthy to lose weight. And if a healthy body is operating and functioning as it is, you won't be hungry and cause you to overeat. You won't have the diabetes. You will lower your risk of cardiovascular disease, etc. So the first week we focus on just buy the foods to make the recipes I'm giving you. Rule number 1, never be hungry. Eat until you're full. In week 2, we start introducing some more of the mental aspects. And each week I add a mental aspect to this. Is people don't overeat when they are happy. They overeat when they're unhappy. So one of the best pieces of advice is if you want to improve your happiness, find somebody to help. It's more blessed to give than receive, as it is written in a 2,000-year-old ancient text. There's a lot of truth to that. Why? Is because you're not focusing on yourself. When you focus on giving, it comes back to you in spades. So I employ some of these principles in the program so that people can start looking at lifestyle is not just what passes your lips, but at what goes in here upstairs as well. And if you can approach this from a holistic point of view, each week I build on this, increasing the intensity. Now, why do I increase the intensity? Is because we need to hold ourselves accountable. None of us are really performing at the levels of our true potential. And as your energy levels go up, you will want to exercise more. So the exercise as well, I'll talk about the minimum dose, just walking. When you feel it's right for you to start resistance exercising, go for it. And then I will help you get to the point that the minimum dose of that for you, that's right for your body and your time constraints. As we build through, by the end of the second month, we'll be moving into some more challenging tasks. And those, we would also be incorporating some meditation, some affirmations, and it's 2 to 3 minutes a day in the morning and at night. Why? Because autosuggestion is going to help reprogram your mind. I'll also introduce some cold therapy. And why do I do that? Well, there's so much science and studies around anxiety and depression. When you are exposed to cold therapy, i.e. a cold shower or an ice bath, which would be the extreme side of it, you have a dopamine release in your body which helps you to overcome anxiety. And you'll find you'll start becoming more calm. Other than your energy levels coming up through nutrition, your mental health is improving because you are getting rid of the clutter, mental clutter, physical clutter. You're simplifying your life. You're ready to take on more challenges. And by the end of the 90 days, when you look back, of course, I'm going to need you to just journal every day, one thing that you liked, one thing that you didn't like. And I ask the people to do that because when you put something down on paper, you suddenly have a new perspective on, wow, I was thinking that, or I was feeling that. The main aim of that is to create awareness. You cannot change things that you're unaware of. And that's that programming that's running below your awareness called your subconscious. When you start recognizing your negative thoughts, to use your earlier example, Jeanette, I am an emotional eater. Well, the very fact that you identifying your whole identity around being an emotional eater is the first issue, right? I'm going to give you a silly example. If you want to run 5 miles a week, you can say, I'm going to change my habit and I'm going to run 5 miles a week. But if you want permanent change, you've got to change your identity-based habit. You want to say, I am a runner that runs 5 miles a week.
Makes a big difference.
Huge.
Huge.
Just repeat that to yourself and feel the difference in your body when you say those two statements. I run 5 miles a week. Straight away, you've got this, it's effort. Or as an identity, I'm a runner that runs 5 miles a week. You're more at peace with that statement.
Yeah.
The words you choose and the pictures that you put in your mind drives behavior. So we start deconstructing that over the 90 days.
Very cool. Very cool. I think that's wonderful. It's an amazing program. Go ahead and say again how we can reach you.
I would say that either through TikTok or Instagram,
Okay.
the Keto Way 50 Plus, subscribe and send me a DM. And, you know, we can hop on a call, a fast track call, and see if we'll be a good fit to work together. And yeah, I have some spots open. So if there is anybody that's interested, I'll look forward to talking to you.
So I want you to pay attention to the commercial. We always do Can Do spices, and they are special spices, but they also have like ashwagandha and other things in them. So they're really cool. We always advertise them because I fell in love with their spices myself, and they're just very tasty and all natural ingredients. So, you know, Can Do's, they're just great spices. So take a look at that, and maybe something your clients might enjoy as well. I really appreciate you being on today. I learned so much. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. It was great being on here with you.
I'm so glad. It was fun. And, you know, really, I think we do get very caught up in our lives and all the doing. And then we forget, like, hey, look, we really only get one body. You know, there's always tomorrow. Oh, I'll exercise tomorrow. Oh, I'll eat better tomorrow. Oh, no, like, we're not guaranteed tomorrow. Nobody is guaranteed tomorrow. You know, I know so many people who just like didn't wake up the next day, and there's a lot of reasons why, you know, but we're not guaranteed tomorrow. And I mean, we can go out and get in a car accident, and I mean, there's a lot of ways that people die, and we don't want to focus on being afraid of all of those ways, but we do need to keep an effort of every day. What can I do to make myself feel better? And I will say too, when you're on all those processed foods, that really adds to depression. So then you're in kind of a never-ending cycle of, okay, I'm eating all this stuff. It's making me depressed, which makes me want to eat this icky food some more. And the only way to stop it is to stop eating the stuff that's causing it. And depression can be a sticky wicket, so to speak. But you know, it's like the things that are going to actually get you out of depression are the last things you want to do. Go for a walk around the block. That's like such a big deal to get you out of depression. And, you know, go eat some salmon, you know, get the right vitamins inside you and get the right foods inside you. But you don't feel like cooking. You don't feel like, you know, that feels like this insurmountable task is I'm going to go cook a fish. And it's not. You just have to say, wait, one step at a time. This fish is going to make me feel better. You know, go walking around the block is going to make me feel better. But once you start doing it, then it's a lot easier because the depression doesn't have the hold on you.
It's just me again. I know we're winding down, but I was going to tell Shane that we've got that lovely commercial that we give, which is the Can Do spices, which I know that actually Jeanette is going and bought some of them. And the guest last week, I think if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, but the guest last week had bought some. And Shane, you might have to buy some because it's a wonderful spice blend that is going on that a friend of mine, Shawnee Smith, has created. And it's definitely based in the family heritage. And she actually talks about that within the commercial and everything. But I know that definitely Jeanette has bought some, and she'll probably give you the information, and you'll see the information on the commercial. But whenever Jeanette gives me the pitch to bring it up, I will. But I also want you to give the final word and everything, if there's any final words that you have.
I would say that from a depression standpoint, I'll challenge you to a 1-week diet of no news.
Oh, I do that.
No news. If you want to find out how much news affects you, they've said that for every 2 minutes of news, it takes 6 minutes of good things just to neutralize.
Yeah.
So for those
Shane,
of you
there's only
that are
one
news,
problem with that. I like the idea, and I definitely can have some moments of no news. I don't know that I can do a whole day because I'm part of a network, but we don't have news on Saturday and Sunday. So yes, I can do it on the weekend, but I know we have a news show that's Monday through Friday, so it might be hard for me to do it when I am
Well-
trying to create some news conversations.
so in your case, pick your poison, right?
Exactly. Agreed. Shane, it was a pleasure hearing your conversation. I know we'll be re-airing it several times during the week. So I've definitely thoroughly enjoyed meeting you. And like I said, I hope that you'll enjoy this commercial. And I know Jeanette will have another amazing guest next week as well, because I've definitely become a fan of hers, as well as some other folks that are a part of what we are doing. But definitely looking forward to maybe even seeing you make a return trip. Because I think, if I'm remembering correctly, Jeanette, you've had at least one or two that have made return trips as of now. And
We
who knows,
will
maybe
touch-
Shane.
We can do this again if you like, because I know there's just so much to cover here.
Yeah.
So,
Sure. And I mean, based on questions you get, I can maybe address those the next time if there's any
Sure.
other questions, because there's a lot to cover. You're right.
Sounds good. Well, speaking of which, I'm going to bring up the Kendu Spice promo. I know that you probably got appointments to get to. I do as well. And Jeanette's got to find out the next house that she's going to design. And who knows, maybe to have some of those great colors like the green and the red that are in the backdrop, or maybe even a lake, even though this is a setting, if I remember correctly, from Duke Gardens, which is one of our botanical gardens. And I'm a big fan of botanical gardens. I was just thinking I need to go walk out there. But Jeanette, I'm not going to walk out there right now because it's 100 degrees. So I might wait till later on this evening when it's a little bit cooler, or over the weekend when maybe we'll get a coolness break.
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you, Shane.
You know how people love to enjoy food and don't understand how to flavor their food or how to replicate a meal? They're interested in supplements but don't know where to begin? Well, what I do is I take the guesswork out of enjoying flavor and wellness with my flavorful spice blends so that they can create delicious meals with healing benefits. Kendu Spice was created to help cooks at any level enjoy healing through food. Every spice blend was designed to give added health benefits of natural herbs. Every blend is complete. There's no need to add any additional spice for a delicious meal. Saving you time and money while adding supplements to your meals can be both tasty and fun. My earliest memories in the kitchen began with my father, Kenny Kendu Bond, so it was fitting that I would name this line after him. I have always looked to natural remedies to supplement the body, and I found myself hiding herbs and minerals in foods for my family. That's when it hit me. Everyone needs Kendu Spice. Everyone should be having this. It's an exclusive brand for cooks at any level who want to create flavorful dishes with healing benefits that can satisfy the body and soul. Add a little spice to your life. Give Kendu Spice a try.